Bulgy. This is a story about Bulgy the bus. He came to work on the island of Sodor during the busy season. He thought he would be better than all the engines, so he tried to take their passengers away. It was sightseeing season on the island of Sodor. The Fat Controller's engines were working hard. Their stations were crowded with people. Duck, Donald and Douglas were taking passengers from the station to other parts of the island. Some passengers had been brought to Sodor by a big red bus called Bulgy. Bulgy looked at the crowded platform and frowned. "I wouldn't have bought my passengers if I'd known how many were here already," he said. But they all really enjoying themselves," said Duck. "Pah," replied Bulgy crossly. Duck thought Bulgy wasn't very moody. Bulgy was rude to all the engines. Every time he saw them, he shouted, "Down with railways!" he said. Railways should be closed so coaches, buses and cars could do everything instead. The engines thought Bulgy was rather silly, but when another bus arrived to take Bulgy's passengers home, the engines were worried. This meant Bulgy was going to stay on the island. Would he really get the railways closed down? What would the engines do then? Bulgy told the passengers that he could get them to the big station faster than the engines could. "That's rubbish," said Duck. "It's much further by road." "Yes," said Oliver, "but Bulgy says he knows a shortcut." That evening, Duck was about to start his final journey of the day, but only he had a few passengers aboard. He waited for a few minutes, hoping more would turn up, but none did. Just then Duck heard a loud toot toot. Bulgy was leaving the station. He had a sign on his side saying "Railway Bus." Most of Duck's passengers had gone with Bulgy because he had told them he was working for the railway. "Stop!" called the railway staff as Bulgy pulled away, but it was too late. "Yeah, boom, snubs," Bulgy said as he roared away with the passengers. Duck and his carriages, Alice and Mirabelle, set off on their journey with a few passengers. They had Bulgy. "Bulgy is a nasty old thief," said Alice to Mirabelle. "He's taken our people." Duck knew that they had to stop Bulgy taking their passengers if they carried on like this. The railway passengers could be shut down. He wondered what they should do. But Bulgy was about to be stopped on his shortcut when it led down to a narrow road with a low bridge. As he rushed under the bridge, there was a sudden screeching noise, and he ground to a halt. He tried to move forwards and he tried to move backwards, but it was no good. He was truly stuck. Cars and coaches beeped angrily at Bulgy because he was blocking the road. "A tall bus like you should never have gone down to this road," they said. Bulgy's passengers were furious. "We should have gone by Duck," they said. "He would never have let us down like this. Where going to miss our train at the big station, and it's all your fault," they shouted at Bulgy. Bulgy didn't say a word. As Duck reached the bridge, a man appeared by the tracks waving a red warning flag. "Danger," he cried, "the bus is stuck under the bridge." Duck moved slowly forward. He saw Bulgy under the bridge. So that's Bulgy. Under the bridge. So that's Bulgy. So called the shortcut, he laughed. Bulgy held his breath as Duck slowly moved over the bridge. The bus tricked us," said Bulgy's passengers. "He said he was working for the railway, but he lied. Can we go with you instead?" Duck agreed and took all the passengers to the big station in time for their train. The passengers promised that they would always travel by train from then on. Bulgy was left under the bridge. He had to wait all night before he was rescued. He didn't learn his lesson and thought he could take over the railway, but then everyone knew that it was faster to go by train, so they all travelled with the engines instead. Bulgy decided to retire. He asked the farmer if he could live in his field and look after the hens. The farmer agreed. From that day on, Bulgy was much happier, and the hens enjoyed hearing about his grand adventures on the bus route and how terrible the engines were. They didn't know any better, and Bulgy felt proud because the hens processed more eggs than ever before.